J.D. Vance out making the media rounds this weekend, appearing on ABC's This Week and taking some questions from Martha Raddatz of ABC, and they were going back and forth about Trump being out in Aurora, Colorado, and the discussion of the Venezuelan gangs who have taken over multiple apartment complexes in Aurora, and Martha Raddatz pressing J.D. Vance on some comments that Donald Trump had made that she felt exaggerated the extent of the problem, and J.D. just simply was not having it. Let's go to the tape.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs. I worry so much more about that problem than anything else here. We've got to get American communities in a safe space again. And unfortunately, when you let people in by the millions, most of whom are unvetted, most of whom you don't know who they really are, you're going to have problems like this. Kamala Harris, 94 executive orders that undid Donald Trump's successful border policies. We knew this stuff would happen. They bragged about opening the border, and now we have the consequences, and we're living with it. We can do so much better, but frankly, we're not going to do better, Martha, unless Donald Trump calls this stuff out. I'm glad that he did.
So there you go. Do you hear yourself, Martha? JD's voice cracked when he said that. I thought he was going to go through puberty again there. She shocked him so much with this. Dave, really honestly, that is a moment for JD Vance, because what are we talking about? Like, really, let's stop for a second. Is the problem that Donald Trump may have exaggerated the extent of the problem of multiple incidents of Venezuelan criminal gangs taking over apartment complexes in the United States? Or is the problem that there have been multiple incidents of Venezuelan criminal gangs taking over apartment complexes in the United States? I mean, such a simple thing for him to say to her, but it really is. Like, let's take a step back. What the fuck are we talking about here?
Perfectly phrased, Ricky. And JD, I like the look on his face before his voice cracked was that of, I have to talk to an insane person for the next 30 seconds. I have to rationalize with somebody who's being irrational that the problem is what Donald Trump said. Are like, what? It's like, well, the problem wasn't that Lincoln got shot. It was the play. Like, what are we talking about here? Like,
Dave, look, if Donald Trump, if Jesus Christ resurrected and we had the second coming, and Donald Trump was the first person to see Jesus, and he said, hey, look, I saw Jesus about 3:30 this afternoon, they would come back and fact check him and say, no, actually, you didn't see Jesus until 3:42, you fucking liar. And that would be the story.
About that.
You lied about Trump exaggerates second coming. 12-minute difference between his account and when we can confirm that Christ was back. And that's is the story that they would present. What are we doing? This is completely unacceptable. We should be concerned that we have unvetted, undocumented, illegal entries into this country, some of whom certainly are criminals that the countries that they're leaving are glad to see them go, and they're setting up shop, conducting their criminal networks of activity in our country. And the best that the media can do is, well, Donald Trump exaggerated something. Hey, guess what? Donald Trump exaggerates everything, but we still have a very real problem here. And Dave, don't even get me started on the free speech issue,
Oh,
because
God.
NBC, following up with this, now this is rich, because as I've said many times on this show over the course of the past several weeks, going back to the launch of the show, free speech is the number one issue for me
Absolutely.
in this election. All right. And the media has sat there and they've been completely fucking silent on Tim Walz saying that there's no guarantee to free speech, that misinformation and hateful speech are not covered, of all of the regulations, of us knowing now that the Biden administration pressured Mark Zuckerberg to take COVID information off of Meta, and so on and so forth. We've had all of this going on. The media so fucking silent that you could hear a pin drop, and now suddenly they're interested in this issue. And the quote that I'm looking at here that was on the NBC article that was just up on the screen, this is out of the Autocratic Playbook, referring to Donald Trump's rhetoric. As autocrats consolidate their power, they began to try to outlaw anything that threatens their power. They'll make it illegal. I'm paraphrasing Ruth Ben Ghiat there with that quote. 3 weeks out, and suddenly the media removes the head from their anal cavity, and they notice that free speech is important. But it turns out, plot twist, Donald Trump is the problem. How do you figure that one, Dave?
Of course, it is so comical. I think JD Vance should just have T-shirts made that just say, "Do you hear yourself?" Because that would apply in this instance as well. Forever, people on the right have been saying free speech is the number one issue. Like we're seeing it. You mentioned all the examples of it. Zuckerberg had to go to Capitol Hill and admit that the Democratic Party and Joe Biden were in cahoots with Facebook before the election. All these things happened and not a peep. Nobody cared about free speech then. But if it somehow we can twist this to Donald Trump, then that becomes the new existential threat, right? And it is so comical that they cannot hear themselves. They can't see themselves, that everybody else does seem to see this now. And I'll even say this for Kamala Harris picking a fight with Ron DeSantis about the hurricane and whether or not he picked up the phone when she called, make it about me. I think people are starting to see this, that it's not about the issues, whether it's the migrant Venezuelan gangs illegally in Colorado taking over apartment buildings, not whether it's free speech that the left has admitted to censoring and controlling via social media in 2020, or now this. They do not see themselves. They do not see it. They want to always make it about some other issue, whether it's what Trump said, exaggerated on, whatever. Well, I'm going to be dictator for one day, not realizing it was said in jest. They will take anything that is said, make it a headline, put it on, ironically, social media, and then to complain about the very vessel that they're getting their message out on. It's absolutely remarkable. You can hate Trump, you can love Trump, all those things. I'm with you. Free speech has to be, to me, the number one issue of this election. And I think we have so many examples of which side is actually trying to protect it with Elon Musk and which side is actually trying to take it away. To me, it's pretty clear cut, but I think people see what they want to see, and for somehow they spin it every single time into, oh, Donald Trump is the guy trying to take away free speech. It's absolutely astounding, the mental gymnastics that we're seeing from one side.
And quote, at least one quote in that article of, I think it was just some citizen that they were quoting, but the guy was comparing Trump to Hitler. We're hearing these talks about, oh, Trump's an autocrat. We're still hearing about the Hitler comparisons after 2 assassination attempts, and we're just no problem whatsoever. We're just going to continue to push these Trump as Hitler, Trump as wannabe authoritarian narratives. There's no conscience. And to sit here and claim that you give a flying fuck about free speech in the First Amendment, no, the media is doing what they've done all throughout this election cycle, which is just figure out what they can throw on Donald Trump to try to eliminate the threat that they obviously believe that he is to the United States of America. And, we're not seeing anything approaching even-handed journalism, Dave. But the sad part is I'm past the point of even expecting it.
Yeah.
There is no Santa Claus. You're not going to get anything near even-handed journalism. And more than that, Dave, it's like they don't even care about maintaining the superficial appearance of it anymore, as near as I can tell.
At all. No, at all. And I worked in a newsroom in Washington, D.C. at Fox for 18 years. And this is going back, obviously, to the late 90s into the 2000s, that entire decade from 2000 to 2010, left there in 2013. I remember early on, we used to have, I didn't know their politics, but we sent one anchor to the RNC convention and one anchor to the DNC convention. What I figured out later is that their political ideologies, personally, they flip-flopped them. They sent the Republican to the DNC and they sent the Democrat to the RNC. They actually, and I remember clear as day, attempted to be as balanced as you could possibly be. The veneer, you're right, it's gone. There is no, when you see this stuff from news agencies holding the water of a political party, like you just saw in that Martha Raddatz interview, she might as well just have been, that should have been Kamala or JD Vance, or Walz, Tim Walz debating JD Vance, because they're one and the same. The day that went away, for a profession that I love in journalism, and I know really good journalists on both sides of the aisle, it makes me go, man, this is not the journalism that I grew up in. Fortunately enough, went to college for with a journalism degree in mass communications. I was taught differently. I don't know that newsrooms operate the same way. And that is really, you get down to the baseline now, Ricky, that's what they're being taught in college. And if everything is to eradicate Hitler on their side, then all's fair. But if you just flipped it, and God forbid you had the same rhetoric that went against Biden or Harris and led to 2 assassination attempts, what would they be saying? Oh, that's all because of the rhetoric on the right. That's exactly what the spin would be. But when it happens inversely, they go, well, free speech. Got to let them say what they want to say, and take your chances out there, everybody. Good luck. It is amazing how we can safeguard one side's political speech and not the other. That, to me, is as basic as this election gets. All the other stuff is frivolous to me. And yes, does Trump exaggerate? Of course he does. Absolutely does. Hello, politicians. There isn't a politician that doesn't. Show me a perfect candidate, and I'll show you somebody I don't trust, because they do not exist. They are unicorns. But I know what's most important, and I think you do too. To us, it's free speech.
Yeah, and now they're out there asking questions about Trump's cholesterol. So,
yeah, no, that's not
I don't even know what the fuck believe me, he's got to, unfortunately, it seems he has a better chance of somebody taking his life than cholesterol getting him. And it seems like we should all be a lot more worried about that. That's the only time that they care about his health, is when it comes down to like,
gags.
Yeah.
Let's worry about the real stuff.
We care about his cholesterol level, but not people shooting him in the head. Right. Go figure. The state of American journalism in 2024.
Unreal.
Let's talk about Caitlyn Clark once more. And this time, the phenomenon of Caitlyn Clark now, yes, making its way into the collectibles market, memorabilia, sports trading cards, one of my passions. I have been a big sports card guy since I was a kid. I began collecting baseball cards in 1978, and I was hooked. Back when they were about 20 cents a pack. That's how old I am. I sound like somebody's grandfather talking about when you could get a loaf of bread for 2 cents, but you could get a pack of baseball cards for like 20 cents. When I was a little boy, and I used to ask my mom every time we were at the grocery store, the drugstore, Mom, can I get a pack of baseball cards? I was always after Reggie Jackson. So throughout my life, I've thrown a few bucks at baseball cards. I've got a decent collection, but my collection does not include yet Caitlyn Clark. And her rookie card is going to be coming out, in Panini, who produces WNBA trading cards. They're going to have their first off-the-line box of Panini Select, which is, I guess, the hot shot WNBA trading card product that everybody's going to be looking for. They're going to have an auction for the first box that starts at $3,000. Now, this is just for the first box. I think these are the boxes that are going to make their way to Target and Walmart and all of those places. You're not going to have to pay $3,000 for a box, but if you want the very first box off the line, and there you see it, Caitlyn Clark, and who else? The Bill Laimbeer of the WNBA, Angel Reese, right there on the box with her. So we've got Rocky and Drago right out of the gate. Nice marketing from Panini, going right to the heart of it with the storyline of this 2024 WNBA season. And let's go now to Las Vegas. I'm going to go to Dave Ross right now in Las Vegas to get his thoughts on this, because it's got me thinking, Dave, about my history of collecting cards and how this could be the first iconic sports card featuring a woman.
Morning, man. It's great to be with you on a Monday. First of all, the Bill Laimbeer of the WNBA is a perfect way to phrase it for Angel Reese. For us of a certain age, we hated Laimbeer. Everybody hated Laimbeer because he was going to beat you up. He was going to be physical. And then later on in life, I think we appreciated Bill Laimbeer a little bit more. Maybe that'll be Angel Reese, but not right now. And the other thing, when you said dysentery, I don't believe that I have dysentery or have ever had it. But you know what I think of, Ricky, whenever I think of dysentery? Christopher Walken in Pulp Fiction with the gold watch scene. It's one of my favorite movie scenes of all time, the dark humor in that movie. So let's hope that Ronnie is good out there on the Oregon Trail. But that's exactly what you made me think of when you brought that up. I have tons of cards, Ricky. I collected cards as a kid for decades. And then my mother, I love Mom. I'm such a mama's boy. But you know what she did, right? You know she threw out all of my baseball cards because they were worthless. Worthless. Ma, I could have retired eons ago if you just let me keep those cards that I had in pretty good condition. I used to put rubber bands around them, Ricky. That was a mistake, I think, as we've all learned now. But yeah, I'm a big card guy like you. What do you think Caitlyn Clark's card's going to be worth in 10 years? Is she going to be the Michael Jordan of this generation for the WNBA? I didn't know. I thought Panini just did bread. I didn't know they did cards these days. But look, if that seems like the card you want to get, and if it helps market the WNBA, so be it.
Yeah, I mean, the history of trading cards, there are many that are iconic. I guess we can go back. If we want to do a brief history of the trading card, it goes back to the tobacco cards.
Yes.
You get a card with your cigarettes way back in 1900 shit, and Honus Wagner, who was the shortstop for the Pittsburgh Pirates and was a very popular player, but he also, I believe, was against smoking. So he objected to his card being in with cigarettes. And so after they had printed a relatively small number of those, they stopped. And so for that reason, they're very, very scarce. I think there's only a handful that are even known to be in existence today. And I'm pretty sure the most expensive one, the best condition one, has gone at auction for, I want to say several $1 million here, but somebody can fact check me on this later. Take it with a grain of salt. Now, the 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle went to auction a number of years ago, and I believe that it sold for something like $12 million, somewhere in that range. One that was in mint condition. Later on, getting a little more. Yeah, there's the mantle. I don't know if that's the mantle in question or not, but I went to the National Sports Collectors Convention a year or two ago, and they had, I believe, the card that ended up going at auction for, I want to say it was like 12 million, something like that. It was in 8 figures. I can tell you that for sure. It was in excess of 10 million. They had it under a glass case and whatever. And, it's crazy to think that a piece of cardboard could be worth that much. Now, Dave, I don't know about you, but I kind of got one of my first lessons in economics from sports cards because I really had it impressed upon me the laws of supply and demand. Because when I was a teenager, it was like people just started figuring out that their old baseball cards might be worth something. And so in response to that, and in that era, it was Topps, Donruss, and Fleer were really the three main. Topps has obviously always been the classic name, but Donruss and Fleer were also in the game at that time, and they responded to the baseball card boom by producing millions and millions and millions of cards, which is why you can wallpaper your bedroom wall with Barry Bonds cards and Bo Jackson cards and Jose Canseco cards and everything that you were holding on to and speculating for back in the 1980s. Now, the Ken Griffey Jr. Upper Deck card in 1989 was an iconic card, I think, for a lot of teenagers of my generation.
Yes.
Yeah, and there that one is. But today, and it's worth a little something today, I have one that is in mint condition, and I believe it's maybe worth somewhere on the order of close to $200, Dave. It's not going to put any of my kids through school or anything like that. Let's get a look, too, at the Michael Jordan, if we can. Maybe this is the best comp for Caitlyn Clark. There's the iconic 1986-87 Fleer Michael Jordan card in mint condition. That one's going to run you somewhere around $20,000,
Wow.
Dave, which I'm sure, the way that you prognosticate with the NFL, you've probably got that in your couch cushions. But
no problem.
That's a hell of a card. I remember finding a box of those. I got 3, Dave. At one time, I had 3 Michael Jordan rookie cards. I got them in a box at Minute Mart in Cave City, Kentucky. That box today would sell for somewhere between, somewhere on the order of maybe close to $500,000 unopened.
Oh my.
Okay, I opened it. This is 1986 or 1987.
Sure you did.
I pulled 3 Michael Jordans, and in 1991, at the age of 19, Dave, I made what I thought was one of the best deals of my life. Yeah, brace yourself for this. I sold all 3 Michael Jordan rookie cards at a card show in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, at a mall for $400. And I thought that I was set for life. Because at the age of 19, living in Horse Cave, Kentucky, $400, I figured I was set until I was in my 30s. But as it turns out, maybe I should have held on to them, Dave.
Maybe, but look, you're a young man, like Billy Joel. When I wore a younger man's clothes, we didn't know then what we know now. And I will say this, to that end, my older brother, Steve, he, speaking of economics with baseball cards, this must have been in the late 80s. And I, for whatever reason, I needed to go down to the 7-Eleven and get a new pack of baseball cards. And my brother, I didn't have any money. My brother said, give me your baseball card collection and I'll give you the money for the cards that you want. I to this day, Ricky, I don't know what it was that I thought I was getting. So I gave him my entire baseball collection to go down and get this new whatever had just come out, 85, 86, somewhere in there. And then when I realized the mistake that I had made, I went to Judge Mom and said, Steve's got to give me back the cards. And she said, no, you made a deal. That's the deal. You made a bad deal, but that's the deal. So like your 3 Jordans for 400, like what's the saying, for those who don't learn from the past, they're condemned to repeat it. You didn't repeat the mistake. You made a mistake. But then you don't repeat the mistake. And hopefully I didn't repeat the mistake of the baseball cards from back in the day. Also, Ricky, do you remember the 80s? They had the basketball cards that were like the super huge basketball cards. For whatever reason, they were a different shape than all the other cards.
Did they
Yeah,
ever become
I do remember those,
worth
actually.
anything? You remember those? Like I had a bunch of those.
No.
Like Dr. J's and Larry
I can't
Bird. They didn't.
remember the company. Yeah. They did. Well, and also speaking of weird cards, I think we've got a photo of the Larry Bird Magic Johnson. They share their rookie card because in 1980, Topps made these weird perforated cards. So
Yes,
yeah,
I
take a
remember
look
those.
at that, Dave. Yeah. So you had, and I got a box of those. I remember buying a box of those when I was 9 or 10 years old. I was probably 9. It was at a convenience store, and I got my mom. She let me buy the whole box. You could buy the whole box back then for probably $9. And of course, I did what any kid would do. I took them home and I perforated them. I got a couple. I remember I had at least a couple of those Larry Bird Magic Johnson rookie cards, but you can't hand perforated cardboard to a 9-year-old and not expect him to tear those motherfuckers apart, So that's what I did. And I remember I kept them in a garbage bag. They were in my closet at the time, just little torn up cards in garbage bags. But again, we collected at that time, though, Dave, for the pure joy of it. It was just the pleasure of getting your favorite player. We weren't hyper concerned about, if there was a slight imperfection somewhere. We'd carry them around in our pockets. We'd take them to school when I was a kid in our book bags, or even in a cigar box. I remember taking cards to school in a cigar box, and we would trade at recess. And it wasn't about investment and speculation. And now, obviously, it's become a big deal for people who want to collect these things, strike it big with some limited edition insert card that's one of one, and then get that thing graded and put it in a slab and sell it at auction for God knows how much money. That's sort of become the MO, and the adult collectors are into that. But Dave, I think it was a better hobby back when we were just looking for the simple pleasure of, I got Caitlyn Clark. And I hope that for little kids, little girls, and for boys that look up to Caitlyn Clark too, or whatever, when they buy a pack of these cards and they get a Caitlyn Clark, I think the real joy of this is just holding the card in your hand and thinking, wow, I got my favorite player.
No question about it. And Ricky, my family moved from New York when I was very young, when I was 10, down to Virginia Beach. And at that time, that was about 1980. So do the math, everybody at home. And I'm a big Mets fan. And the Tidewater Tides were the Mets AAA affiliate at the time. And a couple of years later, they got this guy, Dwight Gooden, and this guy, Darryl Strawberry. They're starting to come through the system. And I think that what I was trying to get from my brother was I wanted to get a Dwight Gooden or a Darryl Strawberry rookie card. Like, I thought for sure that was going to be my future. There's my retirement plan. I had it all mapped out. That's how I thought. Because like down there in Virginia Beach, when those guys came through, it was massive. Like, we knew then that those guys were going to be greats. What we didn't know then was it's not going to put you through college. But I really did believe that. I remember at a young age thinking, Mom, there is a monetary value to this that we do not see today here in the early 80s, but we will see it somewhere down the road. We still talk about it to this day. I think I was proven right in the end, but I can understand why Mom thought it was just a junk pile of having all of these cards all around your room in a garbage bag, just like you did, Ricky. And the other thing that me and my brother would do years later is we would open up the packs of cards, especially the tops. And you remember the gum that was in them, right? That stick of gum. We'd be like, oh man,
yeah.
This is like 7 years old. Of course we ate it. Like you had to still try to eat the bubble gum, right? All those years later, like a double dog dare.
Dude, I had a guy, a Super 70s fan, met up with me at the Oakland Coliseum a number of years ago, and he brought me some old unopened packs of cards from like the late 80s, early 90s, and I was sitting like second or third row behind home plate at the Coliseum, the only game I ever saw there, and I open up a pack of these cards, 30-year-old Topps gum. I popped it in and I chewed some right there, and I lived to tell the story. And to tell you the truth, Dave, it wasn't that much different than what it tasted like in 1988. I don't know what that says, but
yeah, I can taste it just thinking about it. Yeah. Like I do remember we got, I don't know how old, what as old as your gum, that's for sure. But I do remember it kind of stung the tongue a little bit and then almost disintegrated like most of that bad gum did back in the day. But there is a flavor to it that you can associate with your childhood. Absolutely. You can just remember it because that's how much gum we like. Think about that. It was packaged powdered gum, and the last baseball card in there always had the residue. Remember a little bit of that gum residue, that white, whatever that was.
You always hope that it wasn't your favorite player. Yeah. Because you'd be like, okay, great, I got Darryl Strawberry, right? And then on the back, it's like the chalk outline of the gum, like it's a deceased suspect on NCIS. Dave, I also don't understand the science of sending rockets into space and then catching them with giant robotic chopsticks. Did you see this yesterday, Dave? Elon Musk's, what are they calling this? It's Mechazilla. It's being called.
What?
And it just snatched a 19-story rocket out of the sky, like Mr. Miyagi teaching Daniel-san to
the fly
eat with chopsticks. Look at this thing.
It's
like the fly, Ricky. Right there.
Right. And we can't hear it here, but the reaction from everybody there at SpaceX, they're going absolutely nuts, which they should. Like, I think it's a bad day, Ricky, for the Elon Musk doesn't really do anything to help society crowd. And, we got to deplatform X. And Elon, for all those losers that tweet all this stuff out about Elon Musk, just watch this video and just he's been saying this for 2 decades. Like, this is what we're going to try to do. And we're going to try. And he's doing all of the things that he's been trying to do. It's absolutely, to your point, Ricky, I can't comprehend it either. I really can't, but he can. And to actually make this stuff happen in real time in front of our faces in 2024, dude, this guy's got brain power that I'll just never fully be able to comprehend. I mean, that stuff, it's just cool. It's like Billy the Kid on a quick draw and then putting it back in the holster. That's what it seems like to me at SpaceX.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. I saw people yesterday saying, well, he didn't do it.
Right, of course not.
No fucking shit, he didn't do it. He oversaw it. And the same thing, when he took over X, people are like, well, he's not doing anything. That's how they diminish him. That's how they diminish him, Dave. Whenever he's successful. I remember when he purchased Twitter, and people are like, well, the engineers, the people who made it run, it's going to be done in 36 hours. It's going to be over in 48 hours. I had people sending me DMs saying, I'll see you on the other side. Thank you for everything you've done. They were writing Twitter's obituary. And I remember I tweeted at the time, I said, look, Elon Musk sends people to outer fucking space. I think he can figure out how to keep an app running. And now not only is X still running, and it's driving a lot of people crazy who are of a certain political ideology, as you were mentioning. Now we've got him snatching 19-story rockets out of the sky with robotic chopsticks. So maybe the lesson here is that we just need to listen to Elon. I read up on this. Look, I'm an expert. I read up on this for 3 minutes before the show, Dave. But I read that once they've caught it, that thing is ready to refly again in under an hour.
How?
They can just send it off again. The
just refire
incredibly short refractory period, Dave.
Yeah. Some women are jealous watching that.
Yeah.
Ricky.
I mean, it's got size. It's ready again fast, Dave. A lot of us are feeling pretty inadequate right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for nothing, Elon. I'll tell you this. Ricky. I have a confession to make. What was Zuckerberg's counter to X that he did a year ago or a year and a half ago? What the hell was that was going to end X forever? Remember that? What was that thing
Yeah.
on? What was the name of that thing? Like it's I can't even remember now. I thought, oh boy, Elon's in trouble. Like Zuck's going to put him out of business with his new offshoot. They called it the X Killer.
Threads.
Threads.
What was it?
What
Threads?
the hell happened to that thing?
Yeah.
Is that still in existence?
It's out
Remember
there.
that was gonna put-
I don't know. People
my.
people ask me sometimes, like, are you on Threads? I go, no, I'm not on fucking Threads. I'm over here. You know, I don't even know what happens over there. It's like Zuckerberg's version of Truth Social. There's like 45 people on it, I guess. I don't know. Let's take a quick look here before we go to the break at what I'm tweeting. What am I tweeting?
Oh.
Remind me. There we go. Obviously, I didn't skip forearm day as you look at that avatar. Here's one for you, Dave. A little NFL throwback. The house is on fire. Where's Jimmy? Well, I wouldn't worry about him, honey. He's wearing his Vikings pajamas. It's very important. What does it say, Dave, that the number one thing that they wanted to promote here about this is the flame retardation. We are retarding flames. And was this a big concern for parents in the 70s? Like, I remember drop, stop, and roll was a thing, but very important that your pajamas, you know, don't just send you up like a match head.
Well, Ricky, I got a lot of questions. First of all, is it only the Vikings that were flame retardant? Like if I'd had cowboy pajamas in the 70s, would I go up with the house, or did I have to have the Fran
charcoal
Tarkenton
briquette right there if you were wearing those? Wouldn't it be amazing if it was only the Vikings that were flame retardant?
Everybody else should go up.
It's like, are you a Vikings fan? I mean, not really. I just don't want to die in the event of a house fire. Oh, okay. I thought you liked Fran Tarkenton. I don't know. You tell me, Dave. Well, anyway, I don't know. Are garments more or less flame retardant today? Did we stop caring?
Oh,
I don't see any item of clothing advertised as flame retardant now. Like, is that just built into the cookie? It goes without saying, oh, of course it's flame retardant.
I got to think we didn't have smoke detectors in the 70s. Like that was the smoke detector. The NFL pajamas was essentially the modern day smoke detector, right? Now that we have them, I think the NFL doesn't have to signal to the user of the 7-year-old Jimmy, hey, if you wear these, you're not going up if the house goes up. And what are you doing as a kid in NFL pajamas that might make the house catch fire? Like, what the hell's going on at that household? I don't think I want to be in there.
Yeah, maybe
look at that kid
making a little popcorn on the stovetop or something like that. But I mean, you know, it's like in some people's homes back in the 70s, the smoke detector was their nostrils. You know, we didn't have the technology that we have today. All right, well, Dave, strong out of the gate here as always, my friend.
Hey, Outkick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to Outkick.com where you can watch the full episode.